Have you noticed how many YouTube videos are now generated using AI? I mean, completely AI. It seems to me that there is a plethora of these videos in which it entices you with an AI generated thumbnail and then a whole load of stock footage that is most likely compiled by AI, a script that has been written by AI, and then a voice that has been made by AI. And very little human or man or woman artistry involved in it. And of course, it's all compliant to the terms and conditions of YouTube, so what could possibly go wrong? Except that, is it not taking away jobs from those people who would like to make a career or would like to share ideas or demonstrate their products using platforms such as YouTube? Yesterday I had on the show, if you haven't seen it, an interview with Richard Jeffs talking about stakeholder capitalism and how AI was going to take people's jobs. And this, of course, is a worry. And we've seen so much that has gone in the digital world, such as do-it-yourself lawyering. Now we've got AI lawyers, and there'll be so many different clerical jobs, computer jobs that are done by AI. Music, art, everything you can think of that you can do on a computer now is most likely possible by artificial intelligence. And Richard Jeffs' interview made it sound incredibly bleak for us because we'd all be losing our jobs, and what would we do? Well, the thing about all of this is I do think that, yes, AI, like any tool, has its place, and some people are using it very carefully, let's say, like you would use a chainsaw. You're using it very carefully. If you misuse it, it'll chop your leg off or your arm. But if you use it very carefully, you can chop the tree or cut the wood, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And I think that's the same with AI and or any other tool. As long as we, men and women, people, are in charge of that object, that tool, then we dominate it, we've created it, we make it do our bidding. It's when it starts to slip and chops your arm off or controls you or takes away your job that we're in jeopardy. However, for me, as soon as I see an AI generated YouTube video, I switch off. It's so obvious. And I realize it's just a script. And actually, the more of these that you look at, the more bland they appear. And actually, it's not really telling me very much than the previous one on a similar subject. And I've realized, of course, that people are interested in people, real people. And even when you see an AI generated human being sitting at the screen talking to you, there's something missing. The soul, the individual, the spark of life. Yes, you can imitate somebody sitting there flesh and blood and talking very professionally. You can even add mannerisms that make them appear real. But when the soul, the spark of life is not there, it's a dead entity looking back at you. A bit like the all caps name that we're all dealing with when we have bills and utilities or passports or bank accounts. It's that same sort of dead entity that is staring you back and you think, but that's not real. And I think this actually will turn itself round, that people will crave for real things. The more that we take this into the world of the bland, of the artificial, of the sterile, of the synthetic, same with food, that people will eventually not put up with it. It's novel at the moment, but I think people will crave those real people, people who are sitting in front of a camera, for example, and trying to put over a point. And they may go down some rabbit hole, or they may get diverted, or they may not be able to think coherently, or they may stumble over their words, or they may think about what it is they're going to be saying. They may make mistakes. They may twitch and have all sorts of ordinary, everyday, usual mannerisms. And that is what will endear them to an audience. And I think that's the same as we walk down the high street and we see the uglification of this planet, of the place that we live in, of this earth. And we see the same old hoardings with the same old brand names, and then there, an individual little curiosity shop that looks a lot more human, a lot more interesting, creative. I think that while, yes, AI may well take away a lot of people's jobs to a degree, but maybe these are the repetitive dead-end jobs. And I've said it before, I think that we are here to thrive and to create. And I think that in that, although, yes, AI can produce a fantasy photograph in seconds, and that it may take us a lot longer, and it may take us learning experience to do that, the satisfaction, the pleasure, what we get out of it in taking that journey ourselves and doing things ourselves is a lot compared to the instant press a button and it spews out, done, complete, professional, and looking absolutely perfect. It is the imperfect world that makes us interested and thriving. Life throws up many challenges, and at certain times they seem insurmountable, they seem impossible, they seem terrible, but we get through them. And then in time we look back and we go, wow, I learned so much from that. If you are somebody who is, let's say, born with a silver spoon and everything falls into your lap, on the one hand, many people will envy that sort of lifestyle. But for that person who has not achieved anything from their own merit, they've not had to, from the dirt, as it were, clamber up and pull their socks up and achieve something with their own hands, what they get out of life is not terribly satisfying. And we see that with those rich and elite who are in the end having to take substances or abusing people in order to search for the thing that satisfies them, not realizing that the substance abuse, the sex parties, the various nefarious things and rituals and all of that they get up to is still not satisfying them. They may have all the money in the world, but unless they've actually come up a path in which, not that they've had to suffer greatly, but they've had to conquer personal challenges, then you'll never get satisfied. And I think that's the same with the AI world, in which we're being presented, teased, enticed to go down and go, wow, look, everything could be done for me. My job could be taken away from me. I don't have to do anything anymore. And then you realize, of course, where's the satisfaction in that? And right from the beginning, I've been talking about we need to take back responsibility for ourselves. We've handed so many of those responsibilities to outside sources that now we are worrying and complaining about utility bills. But at one time we didn't have electricity and water. We had to go and get the water. We had to light our own fires. We had to cook over a stove that we couldn't just flick the switch. We had to light candles, or we had gas lamps that we had to go and light around the house and extinguish instead of just flicking a switch or talking to a disembodied piece of electronics and say to this item, will you please put the lights on or dim them down 30%? Or that we've now able to not have to get up if we watch a television, which I wouldn't recommend, because we have a remote control. We need to take back. Now, I'm not saying everything. We don't have to go right back into the caves. But some of those things that we used to do for ourselves gave us pleasure and satisfaction, although we may have grumbled about it at the time. anything that we have achieved has taken effort, challenges, and hardships to overcome, so that when we look back, we can look back with a certain amount of pride, with a certain amount of satisfaction that we've achieved something, rather than letting a computer-generated artificial intelligence do it all for us. And I think the human spirit will crave, and will eventually, we will cling together to other like-minded people who still have a soul, and that we will thrive in that area. That the more bland, the more ugly, the more boring that life is made for us, the more we will cling to those and ourselves who are doing something that is creative.